Welcome to the Deployed Podcast, where strategy, ideas, and capital come to life.
Hey all, welcome to another episode of Deploy. Thank you so much for joining me. Today, for those who don't know me, I'm Michael Kearse, a real estate investor and founder of Ameripath USA. Over the last several years, I've helped investors deploy millions into affordable real estate that creates consistent, secure returns while helping families across the country achieve home ownership. I created Deploy because I realized everyone has capital, whether it be money, knowledge, relationships, but few deploy intentionally. This show is all about the art and science of deployment and how high performers turn potential into power. My guest today is Andrew Becker. I'm super excited. He's the CEO and co-founder of BrighterPPC. He's delivering motivated sellers to real estate investors. He also hosts the Team Lead Talks podcast, which takes you on a captivating journey through the dynamic world of real estate leadership.
Captivating, man.
Yeah. How are you? Welcome.
Good, dude. Thank you for having me, Michael. I'm excited to be here.
Excellent. Me too, man. I'm super excited. Thanks for taking the time. So real quick, Andrew, how do you usually introduce yourself to people who don't know you or know your world?
It's a great question, dude. I've been in real estate for like 12 years and I do so much different kind of like buckets of things. So I just try to provide value for those who are looking to grow and scale their business. I think that might be the best way, regardless of where you are, your entry point into like having the capital to do so, novice all the way through kind of like advanced mastery. I've kind of hit on all these different, softwares, tools, education pieces. So at this point in my career and my journey in my life, I'm just trying to help others kind of expedite their learning and their growth and their scale of their real estate company.
That's awesome, man. That's pretty cool. Is there anything that people usually get wrong about you or what you do? Being that it sounds like you're really helping people get ahead and you're using technology at the same time?
That's a hard question to answer. I guess people don't know how cool I am at first, but then they get to know me. I don't know. Maybe you'd have to ask them. I'm just trying to provide a lot of the value from my like lessons learned over running a team and spinning off all these other things real estate related that I can to just better someone's life, whether it's personal or their business life. Just trying to impart my wisdom on anyone that I come in contact with and to help them do or accomplish whatever they need to do.
I love it. So when did you first realize that you were on to something like big? When did you realize like, whoa, I can really provide a lot of value in this way?
Well, the first thing, I guess I'll start kind of back. You mentioned Brighter PPC, but there's actually something before that. So just a little bit of my background. I started in real estate in 2013, mainly retail. I built a team with my best friend from middle school, and we built a very high volume, high transaction team. And from that, I was the operations guy. So like the tech stack was my responsibility to try to become an efficient, effective business model.
Right.
And what we wound up doing, it kind of just happened, but I built a tech stack for myself and my team to use because what was out there was okay, but we'd always hit like a system limitation around functionality. Like I'm so sick of asking Michael, like every single time he goes on an appointment, what happened on the appointment. So we built that in to the process. So long story short there is, we built what became Billions, which is a team operating platform on Salesforce. So that was kind of the first thing. And we just used it for ourselves. Okay. But then I started posting stuff on Facebook and people were like, what is that? Can I have it? I think that could help my team. I'm running this, and this, and this, and it's driving me nuts. And Billions is just all in one tab. So it's a single operating solution inside, built natively that way. So that was kind of the first value. I was like, man, I just built it for myself, but then all these other people are now getting value from it. So I changed kind of like in my mindset from working transactions to saying, hey, I really like helping and educating and showing people what we built to better their own business or their life. So maybe I'll just go this route now. And then the second thing was Brighter PPC, which you had mentioned before, kind of the same thing. We did it for ourselves. Then people said, hey, I'm in Philadelphia, I'm in North Carolina, I'm in California. Can you run this for us so we can grow and scale our business? And that's kind of how it just caught fire a little bit there.
That's awesome. I come from the software development background as an IT project manager. And I noticed very quickly on that the best products come from that, right? I was doing digital marketing before I got into real estate, and I was helping small software and IT companies.
Yeah.
So I got to talk with a lot of them. And the ones who created a product from themselves and then just monetized it because everyone else and their competitors or their similar industries had similar problems, those products usually skyrocketed. And to your point, the best products usually solve a problem. And it sounds like you're doing that with Billions and Brighter PPC.
Yeah. With Billions, I'll just say selfishly, I don't think I'm that smart of a guy, right? Or I don't have the best memory. And I just kept forgetting to remember to do stuff, running and operating the team, if that makes sense. Forgetting to remember to ask you what happened, to see if this happened, to see if that happened. So I was like, there must be a way out there, not cobbling together 8 other software tools. Can we make it into one? And it just made my life so much less stressful. And I get a lot of feedback, not to say I'm trying to shoot for an ego or a big head here, but it's like a lot of the people I speak with that run teams are like, oh, I can tell you ran a team by the way you talk about how you built this software out of hating that Michael never reports back on a appointment outcome, or it's just something like that. So yeah, I think the best products, and I'm a customer of some of these products as well, do come from people who have lived through it and they're like, man, there must be a better way out there.
Yeah, that's those are the best products, man. When you understand the customer because you were one, right? And you identify the problem and you make something valuable that really solves it. So you said something earlier I was interested in digging a little bit more. Did you mention that it was built on the Salesforce platform? Did you like
Yeah,
partner with
so
them to
we're
build it?
an OEM, an original equipment manufacturer of Salesforce. In high level black and white, that just means we can sell our own licenses to customers. But essentially, Michael, what we did is we took the Salesforce platform, and it's a huge platform, right?
Of
Like a
course, yeah.
$300 billion
Yeah,
platform that's
yeah.
massive. And we said, okay, let's take everything out. What do we just need at a minimum to run an effective, efficient real estate business? And that's what we include. So while Salesforce is amazing and it does a trillion different things, we said, okay, well, that's a lot of noise. Let's keep it basic and simple and make it predictable, repeatable, and almost boring. And that's how you grow and scale. If you've listened to any of my other interviews I've done or checked out our own podcasts, I'm a very playbook or like SOP kind of guy, doing the same thing repeatedly, predictably, the same way. So you and me do an appointment or set an appointment the exact same way. That's how you really grow and scale. And if something does happen to go wrong, you can audit very easily because you know to set an appointment, there's 2 steps or 1 step or however many. So that's what we built into Billions, just very basic and simple, but it's powerful because you're not wasting time doing that anymore. You're on to bigger and better things like revenue generating activities instead of the low hanging fruit administrative stuff.
That's dope, man. That's dope. I can dig in that for all. And just one more last question about that. Was it really designed from a wholesaling space, building that type of team, or really any types of teams within real estate investing?
So the cool thing that we built in is I mentioned very, very briefly, we did retail. We started in retail, so helping buyers find properties, helping sellers list and sell their homes. But then, and this is back in 2013, around 2015, 16, we discovered this thing called wholesaling. And we're like, oh, wow, what is that? But our system, we had 2 separate systems at that point, one for retail, one for wholesale. With Billions, it's both. And there are tracks or pipelines for a listing, for a buyer, and for a wholesale agreement or like an assignment. But the really cool thing, and that's called the full version. Like you get retail and wholesale. But the really cool thing is if you're just retail today, Michael, and you don't want wholesaling, we do our magic behind the scenes and everything about Billions wholesale disappears. But then a year later, you say, hey, I want to get into wholesaling, Andrew and the team at Billions. And then all this wholesaling stuff just magically appears out of thin air. And now you're running a wholesale operation inside of it as well. And the same is true for if you're just a wholesaler and you don't do retail. We hide all the retail stuff. It does not show. It's there in the background. It's pre-built. It's already integrated and it works well, but you don't have to see it if you don't need it.
That's awesome. I can't wait to learn more. So I want to go back for a second, Andrew, before all of the wins and all of the success. Who were you before this version of success showed up?
In my career, you mean?
Yeah, just in general. And
Okay. Yeah. I graduated college and had, odd jobs here and there, but my first actual career, Michael, was a civil servant in the United States Air Force. And I worked at the Pentagon for 7.5 years,
wow,
supporting the men and women of the nuclear enterprise. And what that means is America has nuclear weapons all over the place, and the Air Force is the steward or the leader of them, making sure they work when they need to, they're where they're supposed to be, they're safe, and that kind of thing. So I helped the Air Force personnel, the officers and enlisted, and supported them any which way I could along the way to make sure that America was protected. So that was before I got into real estate.
Wow, wow. Well, thank you for your service. I just watched a crazy movie on Netflix where they showed kind of like the different perspectives. I forget the name of it, but it was all about, someone trying to manipulate the president into actually shooting off the nuclear weapons. It was
Wow.
insane. It just eyebrow.
Send me
So,
that
yeah.
when you find it. I want to watch that. That's cool.
It was an intriguing show, and they really did a good job of showing how everyone kind of collaborates in a frenzy when something happens. It was
Yeah.
insane. It
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
So you've built something incredible, man. But I know success is more mindset than mechanics. I want to unpack how you think. What principles or beliefs guide how you make decisions?
Simplicity. What's the simplest way you can do it? And I said this a lot already in our short time on this conversation, but like predictable and repeatable. That is honestly, dude, how you really scale. So in my companies that I run today, I have a mantra that I try to instill in the culture. And that is anytime we do something new, the first question I ask myself, or if you're on my team, I want you to ask yourself is, do we have a playbook for that? And what I mean by that is, do we have a systematized, codified, written out playbook, or also known as standard operating procedure or SOP? So it's very boring administrative stuff. But the first time we ever do something, if we don't have a playbook, we get a template out. It's the blank playbook template, and I put in the podcast playbook. And then we have a playbook on building playbooks that everyone needs to learn as well. Happy to share this with you and your listeners, by the way, if you want to see it.
Yeah,
But
well,
we have what's called a playbook library in all of our companies. So it's basically the org chart, but it's a Google workspace doc where it says, hey, here's the billions, here's the brighter. I also have a probate engineers course that I have a playbook for, but it's like sales, marketing, product, G&A, that kind of thing. So what we do is, Michael, you're on my team and say, hey, dude, we need to do a podcast. And I say, do we have a playbook for that? No. Okay. The podcast playbook. And there's certain things that we do in there, like we record things on Loom and we use Scribe How to go through and click for step-by-step instructions all the way down to say, here's the purpose, this is what we're doing it for, and this is how we're doing it. So you do the podcast the same way that I do the podcast, the same way that John Smith on our team does the podcast. And at the very end, there's a checklist. It says, hey, Michael, in your podcast endeavor, did you do step 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5? Because if something goes wrong, I want to be able to go back and say, did you do step 1? Yes. 2? Yes. 3? Yes. 4? No. That's why it didn't get published on time. You didn't do step 4. Why not? It was confusing. Well, let's go back and fix it. And how we do that is a collective approach with everyone on the team by having it in a live environment. So version control never becomes an issue saying, dude, you've been doing version 2. We're on version 4 now. And you're like, oh my God, what happened? So it's a live Google workspace. All the playbooks are there by division or department. And then you click into it. It says who the owner is, last modified. And then if number 4 in our example didn't happen because of whatever reason, go back up to wherever that was, type it in, say, hey, it was updated on the 20th of January, and boom, everyone has the latest, greatest version. So it's a live document that everyone's always feeding into. So that's one of the things that kind of helped drive all of the success. But because before, Michael, it was chaos. Like you were setting an appointment and updating 20 things in the CRM. I was setting an appointment and updating 12. Now everything is chaotic and we're missing data because I'm not following the right way. So that's just one example of many of how we kind of learn from our mistakes there.
Man, I love it. Reminds me of the book. I think it was called Traction. Did you
Yeah,
ever read that? Yeah, yeah.
I
Is
love
that?
that book. Yeah.
I bet you did. Is that where you got some of your ideas from, or was it just innately in you just to think systematically? Say, you know what, I got to get more organized. We need a playbook for
Well,
this.
I've always been an organized person, and I'll go back to my time with the Air Force. That was very systematized, like way of doing business, and the checklist and policies and all this stuff that I learned. And I say this a lot on podcasts. I'm very OCD, and I just fit really well into that. And I loved it because it was like the same thing again, over and over again. So that's kind of where it came from. But to answer your question, Traction, yes, that kind of helped me get organized from a who we want to be. But honestly, I'll give credit to the playbooks too. There's 2 books, Get Scalable and Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell. So Buy Back Your Time, I've sent this book out to like 150 people and counting. Like, it's one of my best. Dude, yeah. He has a system of playbooks in there. And I'm a big fan of like modeling and then modifying. So every single thing we do in Brighter, in Billions, and in the Probate Engineers course is model this because it worked and it's tried and tested and true, but then modify it for how you ultimately want to do it. So those two books kind of like changed my business thinking with tactical action items around the playbook. And there's much more in there too. I actually did Dan's email setup too, which is really cool. So if you haven't read the book, if you're listening, read that book. It's really cool. But that's where those came from. And then over time, it just morphed into, hey, I don't really want to do the camcorder method, right? Or whatever it was. So I'm not going to. Or I'll do a version of it, but just a little bit different.
Right. Yeah, thanks for sharing it. I had a similar experience too. So being an IT project manager, my first role, my two managers were Lean Six Sigma. And I just had someone who was Lean Six Sigma on the podcast before you, and it just brought back memories. But to your point, the way that I run my business, right, as a real estate investor, I am not naturally an organized person, but how I was trained and why I was attracted to project management was, to your point, I like the idea that it was like math, like it was systems,
Yeah.
like it was simple, it was straightforward. You did the same thing. And with the Lean Six Sigma team, they really instilled in me how to, create SOPs and do things organized. And then I
Yeah.
use the project manager and the Kanban system. So very, very similar. And to your point, I also have a coaching program. So I showed them exactly, hey, this is how you get to scale, right? Because you're doing the same thing over and over and over. So that's pretty cool that you're kind of edifying me and how I think.
Yeah, dude. One other expanded thought on that too for people listening out there. It's not only just for Michael and Andrew, right? Like that is how you actually bring in a team member, a fourth, a fifth, a sixth, however many team members you ultimately wind up having. And you're plugging them into this, again, going back to Dan Martell's book, you're getting someone to do 80% of something, which is 100% awesome, without having to sit down each and every time and say, hey, Mary, I'm going to train you. It's going to take 2 weeks and I have to come up with everything that I want to train you on. It's, hey, Mary, you're going to be in the marketing department. Here's how we operate. Here's where you fit into our org. Marketing department is here. You feed everything else. Super important role. Here's our playbook library. In this marketing section, we have 15, 20, 100, whatever you have. Everything we do is going to be in there. So if I want you to post a podcast episode, you find the right playbook and you bring yourself up to speed. And then you track and you hold her accountable based on what's in that particular playbook. And that's how you really grow and how you teach and you learn and you scale effectively and efficiently, because I'm not wasting my time. You're not sitting down with Mary for 20 hours in her first 2 weeks, right? You're saying, hey, bring yourself up to speed. And if it's the right person in the right seat and they can critically think, they should be smart enough to get to the end result that you need based on whatever action item you're asking them to do.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, along these lines of how you think and the way that you ask yourself, hey, do we have a playbook for that? Is there a way that you approach risk and reward?
With team members,
Or in general, like if there maybe is a new business opportunity or, maybe you guys want to bring in a new line of business or just
dude,
anything.
that right there, I'll touch on that. So that is exactly okay. So I built this framework on our team, our real estate sales team. I spun off and started to do Billions. I literally copied it, pasted it into a new workspace, and I had my business framework. And then I started Brighter PPC and I copied that model and I pasted it, the framework of how I wanted to run and operate. So I was easily able to scale out of the sales team into the first entrepreneur venture of Billions, then the second one in Brighter. And shocker, when I started Probate Engineers, I just modeled the same thing and I literally copied the library. I brought over the playbook on building playbooks and the template, and I brought in my teammates and said, hey, this is how we're going to run. It's the same thing over 4 different companies. And we're doing it for my Team Lead Talks podcast as well. We have playbooks, we have systems, we have it dialed in. So I'm just repeating, rinsing and repeating. And they all happen to be around real estate, just a different niche or specialty. But that's how you do things. That's how you grow.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. We talk a lot here about how people deploy their capital, not just financially, but intellectually and relationally. So I'm interested how that looks for you. When you think of capital, what does that word mean to you?
I think money management is an important concept around capital. So what are you going to use the money to do. In my world, it's how am I going to grow and scale? You seem like an avid reader because you just popped open Buy Back Your Time as when I brought it up. Let's see if you can go for 2 for 2. Have you ever read Profit First?
I have not. I think I've seen it, but I haven't read that
Okay,
one.
you got to read that. So
Okay.
Profit First, kind of like I just described the Playbook library, which is one system, right? Profit First is a bank account system. So the way, very, very high level, dude, and I'll send you this book. You got to give me your address and I'll send it to you as soon as we get off. But
I'll take
Profit First says you need to set up your bank account like an org chart almost. So you have money coming in that goes into an income account. The only bank account used to receive money is called the income account. Then you have an operating expense. Then you have taxes. Then you have owner's profit. Then you have, what's the fifth one? I always forget the fifth one. Oh, payroll. And then you can also set up different like ad hoc one-off types. Like you want to start a PPC campaign and you want to allocate every time you get paid, you put 2,500 into it until you get to 30K so you can prepay for that expense. But it's really simple and it's a science. It takes the emotion out of it. And this is how I try to think about capital from business. And also I do this in my personal life too. I have like a house fund, an emergency fund, a vacation fund, that kind of thing, an investment fund. But you get a commission. Like if you're a flipper, right? Or a wholesaler, you get an assignment fee of 50K. You've already pre-allocated by a percentage how much is going to go into OpEx, how much into payroll, how much into tax, et cetera, all the way through. So what we do is we literally have a simple Google sheet that says how much money just came in. You put in 50K and it says, okay, put 35 in OpEx, 10 in tax. I won't do public math. I don't know if this will add up to 50 or whatever.
Right, right. I understand that. No worries.
But it says like percentages, right? So now it's not like, what does Andrew think I should do with this 50? Oh, this one, I'm going to just take all the 50 and go buy a car. No, that's not, you need discipline in your business when it comes to capital. It's not an emotion. Like, how do I feel today versus how do I feel next week? It's PK came in. These are the allocated percentages of where they're going. And that's that. And then you kind of bring it full circle with like a system like Billions or just data and analytics if you're running that in your company. And you use the data to say, okay, how much did I spend on probates? How much did I spend on direct mail? How much did I spend on whatever, right? Postcards. And then you say, okay, well, in our marketing bank account or like OpEx, whatever, wherever you're keeping that money, we have 35K to deploy. Well, what was working and how much did we spend? Oh, we spent 10K in probates and it returned 250K. Well, what if we go up to 15K in probates? Will that return whatever the ratio, right?
Percentages.
Have that money to allocate. And that's kind of like the cyclical meaning of like running the business from a capital standpoint. You know exactly where your money is going when it comes in. And then you're planning based on your data and your analytics that you're hopefully automatically collecting and it's telling you to make predictable plans to go do next month or next quarter or next year. And that's how I think about capital.
I love it. I love it. I can't wait to devour that book.
Dude, send
Are
me your
there
address. I'll send it to you.
absolutely, absolutely. We're definitely going to connect offline. Are there any opportunities getting your attentions these days?
I mean, maybe I should stay away from like AI. Obviously, that is getting my attention. I'm mainly using it for content purposes, but in real estate, I kind of shy away from like lead focus where like a bot is having a conversation with someone or
I agree.
an actual like over the phone type of thing. I think that is taking the personal part of real estate out of it, which is scary to think that some people are doing that. But if it's working, to each his own. So we're closely kind of keeping an eye on that, but mainly for marketing and content.
Yeah, I agree. I'm surprised people think that they can use that for lead gen, but to your point, to each his own. I haven't seen one that made sense to me, and I
Well,
think
here's the thing, dude. Remember when like mass texting was all the rage and people were, oh, I'm sending 50,000 text messages a day and I'm getting a million leads. And then the federal government of the United States was like, I don't think so. If you text someone and they do not give you permission, that's a $1,500 fine per text that we're able to prove. And that could bankrupt people. I personally, like, I don't have a crystal ball, but I think the issue with AI doing that, the outbound stuff, is eventually people are going to fire their people, right? Team owners are going to say, I don't need an ISA core. I'm just going to have Nancy, the AI, call everyone and set appointments for everyone. But eventually, dude, the federal government, and again, I don't know if this will happen or not, but it's going to say, hey, you have to tell people if this is a robot or an actual human in a
no, it's starting that.
I think
Yeah,
that might happen.
yeah.
So, hey, just so you know, you're talking to a robot. Or you can quickly I have Xfinity. You're from Philly. Xfinity's headquartered there. I cannot stand calling Xfinity, talking to an AI bot to then get a text message to then try to get a human. It's just so impersonal. Like, what is that? And I always say there's three kind of like industries where I think this is going to be a problem in or in to shy away from. Real estate being one, attorneys being the other, and doctors being the third one. Those three are person to person. So do not get shiny object syndrome and fire everyone and replace it with AI bots because it's going to be so noticeable to the people. And if you're a wholesaler, most of the time, dude, it's like they're in a certain situation where they need that connection with someone they can know, like, and trust. And I don't think that's going to be in a robot or an AI.
No, I agree wholeheartedly. And that's where I was going at earlier is that know, like, and trust, that rapport, that's 90% of it in real estate. And so your bot can't replicate that. And to your point with content, I'm the same way with content with the AI, but I'm starting to see now where they're asking you, like the platforms, if you're, hey, was this AI generated? Or hey, you need to identify that. Absolutely. I always like to end with perspective because, again, the way we deploy capital says a lot about us and who we are and what we value. What does legacy mean to you?
What does legacy mean? I think it just means building something that you can be proud of, that if you choose to, you can pass along to someone in your family, in your friend group, or in your company, or sell, I suppose, to somebody else that can carry on that tradition for you. Yeah, I guess that without getting too deep,
Yeah.
it's something you build, man.
I like it. I like it. And when people talk about your impact one day, what do you hope they say?
I hope they say the value that I was able to share with them helped them get to their end goal much faster than they could have done it on their own.
Love it. I love it. I love it. Andrew, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much. That's all the time we have for today.
Yeah, man. Thank you
Everyone
so
who
much for having me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Everyone who joined us today, thank you again for joining us and spending time with us. We'll see you on the next episode.
All right, man. Take care.
Take care.
You've been watching the Deployed podcast, where we deploy insight, capital, and growth.